Mr. President, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to you for coming here today. As leaders of the United Nations, you possess the responsibility of guiding this world into the next millennium. The promise of a peaceful and prosperous future depends directly upon the collective actions we take today. As we all know, our world today is not a world of peace and happiness, but a world of conflict and despair. We are confronted with the breakdown of our families and the moral decline of our society. We debate the issues over and over again and yet find no solutions. Why is this? This is because a true solution must include God and deal with the root of the problem and not just the symptoms. To find this root, we must first understand God's purpose of creation and realize that today we face the most important turning point in the history of God's providence. At this crucial time in history, God has asked my husband, the Reverend Sun Myung Moon, to bring a new revelation to the people of the world. I have been supporting him in this work and have recently concluded a year-long tour that took me to 12 countries where I spoke on the topic True Parents and the Completed Testament Age. A few weeks ago, toward the end of a speaking schedule that took me to all 50 states of the United States, I addressed members of the United States Congress in Washington on this same theme. I would like to take this opportunity to convey to you, assembled delegates of the United Nations and other distinguished guests, this important message. God's ideal in creating the first human ancestors, Adam and Eve, was that they perfect themselves through true love, so that as true parents, they could then create a good family of true love, true life, and true lineage. Such a good family would have been formed on the basis of a unified heart and mind among family members in front of God. When God created Adam and Eve, his first son and daughter, God wanted them to be better than himself. Traditional thinking would say that this is absurd. But please take a moment to think about this. When we as parents look into the faces of our children, we wish upon them an infinite amount of love and hope. We want them to grow and achieve things ourselves only dreamed of. Similarly, God wants to give limitlessly to his children. God is not content in giving just 100%. God's desire is to give 1,000 times more than what he has. The nature of God's love is to give completely and then forget what he has given. Unlike some who calculate how much they have given and decide that it is enough, for God, enough is never enough. Moreover, God's purpose in creating the world was to have an object of love. His purpose in creating parents and children, husbands and wives, and all things in this world in complementary pairs was to substantiate true love throughout his creation. Likewise, Parents are to live for their children, and children for their parents. Husbands are to live for their wives, and wives for their husbands. All beings in creation are to live for and give to others. If God's ideal of true love had been realized through Adam's family, that family would have become the beginning of the heavenly kingdom. It would have expanded throughout all of history to the clan, to the nation, and to the world. This would have been the world of true love, the kingdom of heaven on earth. Furthermore, there would have been a parallel expansion of the heavenly kingdom in the spiritual world. If God's original ideal had been realized, then there would have been no need of a Messiah or of God's providence to save humanity. Adam's family, though it was merely a single family, would have been the center of the clan, of the nation, and of the world. It would have been the blueprint for all future families. It would have been the model for the realization of God's ideal world. Because of the fall of the original human ancestors, God's work of salvation had to begin. Salvation history had to be repeatedly extended through the complicated and suffering courses of the Old and New Testament ages, culminating in today's completed Testament age. God's ideal of the true family and the heavenly kingdom, which he wanted to realize through Adam's family, was destroyed because Adam and Eve fell away from God. Due to the fall, this present world is far from the good world of God's ideal. In fact, today's world is a false world in that it is flooded with self-centered love. This came about because Adam and Eve became false parents based on false and self-centered love with Satan. They multiplied evil rather than goodness, creating a false family and passing on a false life and a false lineage to their descendants. Thus, false clans, false nations, and a false world came into being. Therefore, the goal in God's dispensation of salvation is for a man and a woman, representing Adam and Eve, to be restored as true parents centered on God's true love, so that the true family can be formed. From them would eventually flow the true clan, the true nation, and the true world as originally planned by God. In other words, the seed from which God's true love, true life, and true lineage can grow must be created. My dear friends, have you ever wondered how a world filled with such evil and corruption could come from a God of love and goodness? If you read the Bible carefully, you will see that the fall of man involves the loss of Adam's entire family. First, the position of parents was lost through the fall of Adam and Eve. Second, the position of children was lost as Cain murdered Abel. God's blueprint for an ideal family and world perfection was lost. Therefore, to restore the original family, God works in reverse to reclaim the positions of Cain and Abel, and then the positions of a true mother and true father. This pattern of reconciliation of Cain and Abel as the foundation for restoring the true parents has been God's consistent formula throughout the history of restoration. The separation of fallen mankind into Cain-Abel division occurs over and over again in Judeo-Christian history. God, first of all, separated fallen mankind into two brotherly sides of Cain, symbolizing Satan, and Abel, symbolizing God, to work out the hatreds resulting from the fall. God used the method of having Abel be hit first and sacrificed. As a result, Abel could stand on that very foundation to embrace Cain and recover the blessing given to the elder son. For example, the religion that most advances the purpose of salvation always receives Satan's most severe persecution. It walks the path of constant opposition, yet continues its sacrificial effort to save the sinful world. Likewise, good people always stand in the position of being struck first and sacrificed. Looking almost anywhere in our fallen world, it is easy to notice struggles between good and evil, similar to the struggle between Abel and Cain. These struggles start in the conflict between each individual's mind and body. The mind, which represents the Abel side, struggles to overcome the body, which represents the Cain side. The struggle within individuals has expanded to the family, nation, and world. As a result, humankind has always been divided into two opposing camps, one good or Abel-like, and the other evil or Cain-like, locked in struggle at every level. It has always been God's intention, however, that both sides be restored, not that one triumphs over and destroys the other. An example of this division is the thief on the right side of Jesus' cross, who represented Abel, and the thief on the left, who represented Cain. So the key to God's work of salvation has always been to unify such divided sides based on his ideal in order to build a foundation on which to reclaim the true mother and true father. Ladies and gentlemen, if a family is not centered on God's ideal of love, there will be conflict among the members of that family. Without God's love as an absolute center, the family will ultimately break down. Moreover, a nation of such families will also decline. Because illicit, self-centered love invaded the first family, selfishness and greed have continued to dominate human history from the individual to the family, society, nation, and world. For this reason, God's work of restoration begins at the individual level. Since Satan knows this, he focuses his efforts also on the individual level. It is not by chance that self-centered individualism has become the dominant way of life in these last days. People feel increasingly alienated from those around them and bear little sense of responsibility for the well-being of their country, society, or even their own families. Rising divorce statistics indicate that husbands and wives feel little responsibility toward their marriages. Parents do not take proper responsibility for their children, and individuals devoid of any sense of human dignity fail even to take responsibility for themselves. America and many other countries of the world have seen such phenomena at work beginning with the youth movement of the 60s. Idealistic youth rejected the materialism around them in order to seek love and peace. But in the process, they also abandoned morality and responsibility. Unable to attain the true love, they thought many disillusioned young people resorted to suicide, drug abuse, and free sex. Of all these, what pains God most is free sex. A world of free sex is absolutely contrary to the will of God and the ideal of the family. Love comes from the stimulation of unblemished emotion, but free sex is totally devoid of purity or true emotion. How many of us have been touched by the cruelty of infidelity and divorce? Where is God in all the one-night stands? What about the nightmare of children who are sexually abused by their parents? Is free sex worth the price of a broken child? Indeed, where there is homosexuality, free sex, drugs, and alcoholism, the world of true love is far away. In this world, Satan openly tells people, drink, take drugs, have sex. Those who do God's will, on the other hand, live a lifestyle that is 180 degrees different from this. Throughout history, those who choose to walk a spiritual path of self-sacrifice have been bitterly opposed and persecuted by the rest of the world. For example, it is only God's love and blessing which have allowed the Unification Church to prosper despite worldwide opposition. The fact that our church has risen from obscurity in war-torn Korea to become a world-level religious movement in only 38 years testifies to God's continued guidance and support. There are those who continue to oppose the Unification Church, spreading wild rumors or trying to prevent our teachings from being heard. Again, Satan's way is always to attack that which is most precious to God. Yet, those who go against the will of God can never prosper. The principle holds true that those on God's side who can endure unjust persecution will win the right to take back the blessing. God's strategy is always to be hit first and then take back what is rightfully his. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bible teaches that Eve was the first to disobey God and enter into a relationship with Satan. Due to the fall, not only Eve, but also Adam and their sons Cain and Abel inherited Satan's lineage based upon selfishness and false love. As the descendants of the original couple, which was compromised by Satan, we have all inherited a satanic lineage. For this reason, Jesus said in John chapter 8, verse 44, "You are of your father, the devil." The Old Testament described a process of restitution according to the formula, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. In the divine principle, we refer to making restitution for a wrongdoing as paying indemnity. To make restitution for her wrong actions, fallen Eve needed to take the entire responsibility upon herself. She should have reversed the actions of the fall and made spiritual and physical restitution for each step of the fall. It was God's will that Eve assist her younger son Abel to unite with the will of God. We know from Genesis that Abel had his offering accepted by God. However, this was not all that was expected of Abel. Through Abel's love, Cain was supposed to recognize Abel as God's chosen person and unite with him. And Eve was supposed to help them bring about that unity. If Cain and Abel had united, the second of the two problems of the fall would have been solved. The unity between Cain and Abel, centering on Eve, would have created a foundation to restore the whole of Adam's family. Throughout providential history, we see the same role played by a special woman called by God to help unite the positions of Cain and Abel as a restitution for fallen Eve's role. In the Bible, one of these special women is Rebekah, the spouse of Isaac. As the mother of Jacob and Esau, Rebekah held the same position in Isaac's family that Eve held in Adam's family. Unlike Eve, however, Rebekah understood God's providence and helped her second son, Jacob, representing Abel's position, to gain the blessing destined for the first son, Esau. Just as Cain killed Abel, Esau wanted to kill Jacob when the blessing went to his younger brother. But with Rebekah's help, these brothers eventually reconciled in a warm embrace rather than resulting to violence. This reconciliation was a major victory for God. This victory, nevertheless, was not complete, since the reconciliation represented only a symbolic purification of blood lineage. The substantial purification of blood lineage had to be accomplished in the womb. This is the reason for the paradoxical story of Tamar. By understanding that Tamar, like Rebekah, was in the position of a fallen Eve, it becomes possible to understand why Jesus was born of her lineage, the tribe of Judah. I am sure that many of you have read the story about the birth of her twins. She conceived with Judah, her father-in-law, the twins Perez and Zerah. The Bible tells us that the two sons struggled even in the womb for the position of firstborn. During Tamar's labor, Zerah's hand was the first to emerge, and the midwife tied a red string around his wrist. Then Zerah's hand disappeared back into the womb, and Perez, the younger, was born as the elder. Thus, the positions of Cain and Abel were restored even before birth took place. It was from this point that the Israelite people became the nation chosen to receive the Messiah. In terms of conventional morality, the stories of Rebekah and Tamar would be questionable at best. Why God blessed them has been a theological mystery until today. As we now see, God needed to reclaim his lineage from Satan so that Jesus could be born. Purified, which the Israelite nation started expanding. The word Israel means victory. Their victory was the purification of blood lineage. The lineage of Judah developed for generations, expanding to the levels of tribe, society, and nation. From this same lineage, Mary was born in Israel 2,000 years later. Mary had the responsibility for unite Cain and Abel figures on the family, clan, and national levels through paying appropriate indemnity and restoring elder sonship. Mary responded to God's call and conceived Jesus, even though, in the eyes of others, she had betrayed her parents and Joseph, to whom she was engaged. At the time, it was customary to stone to death any woman who became pregnant out of wedlock. However, Joseph, standing in the symbolic position of Adam, courageously protected his fiancée and resisted abandoning her. Because of Mary's faith and the work of Rebekah and Tamar, Satan could not claim sovereignty over Jesus in Mary's womb. Jesus was born in the position of a true son under God's complete direct lineage. He is the first true Son of God after the purification of the fallen blood lineage. That is why Jesus, the first begotten Son of God, is the saint of all saints and the ancestor of God's true blood lineage. His birth represented the conclusion of the Old Testament age and at the national level, and the dawn of the New Testament age at the worldwide level. Mary, in the position to restore fallen Eve, had to build a unity between Jesus, who was in the position of Abel, and his elder cousin, John the Baptist, who was in the position of Cain. This unity was essential for the people of Israel to identify Jesus as the Messiah. John was the elder. He had a great following and was widely respected. As Jesus explained to his disciples, the ministry of John was the fulfillment of the Old Testament prophecy that Elijah the prophet would return to make straight the way of the Lord. But did John fulfill his role in God's providence? The Gospel of Luke tells us that John came in the spirit and power of Elijah. John, however, denied that he was Elijah and doubted the Messiahship of Jesus, even after he had received a clear revelation at the Jordan River at the time of Jesus' baptism. John was a well-respected religious figure, while Jesus was seen as only the illegitimate son of a poor carpenter. Without the support of John, it was impossible for the Jewish people to believe in and follow Jesus. Alone, Jesus undertook the difficult task of proclaiming himself. John the Baptist should have helped Jesus reach the religious leadership of Israel. If John had fulfilled his role, then the religion of Judaism in the position of Abel and the nation of Israel in the position of Cain could have united, centered on Jesus. This Cain-Abel unity would have laid the foundation for the marriage of the Lamb. Jesus would have stood as the true father of humanity, and his bride would have stood as the true mother of humanity. In less than 7 years, his teachings would have expanded rapidly to the worldwide level, winning Asia and Rome to his side before he was 40. Eventually, as a true parent, Jesus and his bride would have achieved the individual heavenly kingdom, family heavenly kingdom, clan heavenly kingdom, and national heavenly kingdom. However, this glorious destiny could not be realized. It was the religious people themselves who rejected Jesus' words and called for his crucifixion. Confronted by the disbelief in Israel, Jesus determined to give his life to achieve spiritual salvation for humankind. However, he knew that Christ would have to come again in order to bring physical or earthly salvation in addition to spiritual salvation. This is why the mind can draw close to God through Jesus, but the body continues to be tempted by evil. Even St. Paul anguished over the contradiction of the desires of the flesh and the desires of the spirit. Many great Christian evangelists have also suffered because of this contradiction. At the dawn of the completed Testament age, the crucial challenge is to accomplish both physical salvation and spiritual salvation. Because of Jesus' death on the cross, the conflict between left wing and right wing appeared, symbolized by the two thieves who died with him. This is like the separation into Cain and Abel necessitated by Adam's fall. Likewise, Islam and Christianity appeared and began struggling. Because such separation was caused by the crucifixion of Jesus, Christ will work for unity of these Cain-Abel divisions at the time of the second coming. God's preparation for the second advent required a world-level foundation of successful Cain-Abel reconciliation. This dispensation was carried out through the events surrounding World War II. The Allied countries of Britain, America, and France represented Christianity and were in the position of evil. The Axis countries of Germany, Japan, and Italy were under the influence of nationalistic militarism and stood in the position of Cain. This will represent the expansion of the conflict between Cain and Abel to the world level. Immediately after the Allied victory, great strides were made toward creating a world of peace centered upon Christianity. With Britain in the world-level position of Eve, and America and France representing Abel and Cain, respectively. These allied nations stood united in the position ready to receive the Lord of the Second Advent. Despite all of this preparation, God's dispensation was not fulfilled at that time. God's representative came to bring his word, but was met with tremendous persecution and almost universal misunderstanding. This paralleled Jesus' situation 2,000 years before. Just as the Israelites of Jesus' time awaited the second coming of Elijah on a chariot descending from heaven, Christians awaited the second coming by expecting Jesus himself to descend on a cloud from the sky. In the book of Revelation, Jesus reveals to the Apostle John that he will come again with a new name. This foreshadowed that Jesus would come again through another man, just as Elijah had done earlier. At this crucial time after World War II, God instructed my husband to bring a new message of truth to Christians in Korea. Korean Christian leaders, however, rejected the possibility that he, a humble young man, had been chosen to bring this new message. They could not believe that the second coming would be born as a man on earth any more than the Jewish people could believe it at the time of Jesus. If the Christian churches had become one with my husband, the heavenly kingdom would already have been established on us, as well as in the spiritual realm. During the 7-year period from 1945 to 1952, marking the end of World War II and the end of the New Testament age, the entire world could have united in accordance with the providence of God. Instead of uniting with him, however, these religious leaders became jealous of the growing number of his followers. They blindly opposed my husband without hearing him out. They even spread lies about him, rumors of sexual misconduct and greed. The very antithesis of his teachings were used to assassinate his character. God has expanded Christianity and had raised up a mighty Christian nation like America for the purpose of preparing the way for the second coming. Whether they realize it or not, those ministers in Korea represented all of Christianity. Because America and worldwide Christianity failed to unite with my husband after World War II, they began to decline in their power and moral authority. After World War II, the nation of the United States and the religion of Christianity stood on a victorious foundation of Cain-Abel unity. The time was ripe to receive the second coming. However, this opportunity failed to materialize, and the whole world opposed my husband's work. He was expelled into the wilderness. He was forced the bottom and has been climbed back up ever since. Thus, the Cold War began. The world separated again into two worldwide spheres of Cain and Abel, just as it had during World War II. Denying God, just as a thief on the left denied Jesus, communism represented the Cain-type world. Christian democracies, which affirmed the existence of God, represented the thief on the right and the Abel-type world. It was God's will that the Messiah of the second coming unite these two hostile blocks. This is why we mobilized our church to help settle conflicts between the right wing, represented by the free world, and the left wing, represented by communism. We have also worked on behalf of Christianity and Judaism as a peacemaker with our Islamic brothers and sisters. During the 40-year Cold War period, my husband fought to break down barriers on the individual, family, clan, national, worldwide, and cosmic levels in order to rebuild the lost 4,000-year foundation to receive the Messiah. Since my husband cannot live that long, he knew that he would have to indemnify all of history in just 40 years. During this period of 4 decades, he restored 4,000-year history before Jesus and the 6,000-year biblical history since the creation. After this indemnity was paid, the Cold War ended through the unity of Cain and Abel blocks. This was consummated by the Unification Church at the 1988 Seoul Olympics, where 160 nations of the world came to Korea. For decades, my husband has been completely misunderstood. For 3 years, he was imprisoned in a communist concentration camp. Altogether, he has been wrongfully imprisoned 6 times for doing God's work. Moreover, the media have marked him as a monster who brainwashes the young for self-benefit. Can anyone disagree when I say that Reverend Moon is the most persecuted religious leader in the world? My heart is broken when I think of how my husband has suffered. But he always comforts and reassures me, saying that God has a deep compassion for those persecuted for doing his work. My husband and I have purposefully worked a path of indemnity or restitution in order to restore the failures of the past, including those of the Old and New Testament eras. Korea can be compared to the Old Testament age, while America, a mostly Christian civilization, can be compared to the New Testament age. For the first 20 years, my husband worked the road of indemnity of the Old Testament age, centering on the Korean nation and the Unification Church, representing the positions of the Israeli nation and Judaism, respectively. On the foundation of this work, we established in 1960 the holy wedding of true parents on the national level. Then, in 1971, my husband and I came to America. During the next 20 years in the United States, we walked the path of indemnity to fulfill the New Testament age and begin the completed Testament age. Thus, we established the true parents' family, the origin of true love, true life, and true blood lineage based on God. The truth which God revealed to my husband is contained in the divine principle. Looking at the history of humankind and the stories of the Bible from the providential viewpoint, the divine principle unlocks the answers to questions unsolved for thousands of years. Those who have sincerely studied its contents have found it to be a true gift from God, providing the only solutions to the problems facing our society today. Even in the former communist Soviet Union, government leaders and thousands of young people have found their lives renewed through their studies of our teachings, known as Godism or head-wing ideology. Finally, free from the oppression of communist ideology, they are seeking the spiritual truth to guide their nations. There are countless other testimonies to the power of the divine principle to give hope and new life to young people. Last year in Korea, we held a wedding celebration for 30,000 couples, all dedicating their lives to one another, to God, and to the world. In most families today, parents cannot effectively guide their children, especially on such intimate matters as love and marriage. Yet, my husband and I brought together young people from 131 different nations and realized their most cherished dreams of love in an historic way. Thank you. This was indeed a great miracle of the modern world. In the future, as people come to understand the value and quality of these precious families, millions will seek such marriages. Through them, God can restore the family that Satan has destroyed. Such restored God-centered families are the very building blocks of an ideal nation and world. My dear friends, when Jesus taught about the coming of the Messiah, he told the parable of the virgins who were awaiting the arrival of the bridegroom. This signifies the restoration of the original positions of man and woman, restored Adam and Eve to the realm of true equality. When Christianity failed to meet her bridegroom the first time, God's dispensation had to be delayed 40 years until 1992. At this turning point in the history of restoration, a woman in the position of a true mother must prepare the world to receive the true father. This is why in April 1992, my husband and I founded the Women's Federation for World Peace. Last year, with the heart of a true mother, I visited Korea, Britain, America, France, Japan, Germany, and Italy, as well as Russia, China, and Oceania. I gathered together the women of these nations to form chapters of the Women's Federation for World Peace. With these events, the nations that had been the worldwide Cain-and-Abel countries since World War II and the Cold War united together to receive the true mother and prepare again the foundation to meet the true father. Based upon this foundation, my husband and I can now stand on a worldwide level as the first true parents. As true parents, we are ushering in the completed Testament age. At this historical turning point, we have to practice on the worldwide level the principle that an individual's mind and body must be united, centered on God. To facilitate this, we have founded two organizations working for world peace. The Interreligious Federation for World Peace represents the world mind and carries out the internal mission of uniting all the world religions on the basis of God's love. The Federation for World Peace, on the other hand, represents the world body and pursues the external mission of building ideal societies with the leaders in the fields of politics, economics, media, academia, science, and the arts. Looking at the vertical perspective of love, Adam and Eve should have related directly with God by developing in themselves the four types of love: child love, brother-sister love, conjugal love, and parental love. Therefore, Adam and Eve should have originally grown through the first spheres of the heart, centering on God's true love. As completed children, completed brother and sister, loving couple, and perfected parents. They would have thus achieved the completed family. Adam and Eve should have become the role models for all members of their family. Their children would have looked to their parents as ideal role models. They would have become brothers and sisters to love each other as their parents loved them. They would have become a married couple resembling the husband-wife relationship of their parents. Finally, with the birth of children, they would have established another completed family identical to that of their parents. By establishing ideal, unbreakable families that fulfill the vertical and horizontal unity between parents and children, brothers and sisters, and husbands and wives, we can finally build the eternal basis for God's kingdom on earth as well as in heaven. Thus, all the families in the world originating from the same God-centered ancestors, Adam and Eve would have had equal divine value. In every completed family, grandparents will be in the position of kings and queens, representing God and good ancestors. Parents will be in the position of kings and queens, representing present humanity. And children will be in the position of princes and princesses, representing all future descendants. When all three generations are united, past, present, and future, we'll live together in harmony. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great privilege to announce to you the establishment of the first completed true family. Thank you. My husband and I, together with our 13 children and 20 grandchildren, are absolutely dedicated to serving God and humanity. With 3 generations in one family, we have achieved, on the family level, the central root, the central trunk, and the central bud of the tree of life mentioned in the Bible. It is our sincere hope that you will symbolically graft into this tree by joining us in our efforts to create an ideal nation and world. This marks the beginning of the completed Testament age. Ladies and gentlemen, at the dawn of the completed Testament age, the time has come for each family to take up the messianic mission of completing the work of salvation all over the world. After restoring your family, the next step is to restore your tribe, nation, and world. We call this process tribal messiahship. In the completed Testament age, the mother's role will be crucial. She must unite her children and her husband and link her family with the true parents. Already, we have sent thousands of tribal Messiah missionaries around the world. Soon, the original ideal of the family will be achieved worldwide. As the world enters the completed Testament era, we will live with God again. Realizing this, we must accomplish the unity of our mind and body, husbands and wives, and parents and children. Then we can establish ideal families centered upon God's love. With such families, the symptoms of our decaying society will vanish. As confident children of God, we will no longer be enslaved by the temptations of alcohol and drug abuse. Moreover, by understanding the holiness of love between a husband and wife, we will possess the moral strength to stand strong against infidelity and promiscuity. Finally, we will work as a whole to eliminate war, racial prejudice, and world hunger. Based upon this foundation, we can realize a world of true happiness, freedom, and peace. In such a world, there would be heartfelt compassion for the needs of others. And the nations of the world would naturally cooperate to preserve peace and justice. A situation such as a tragedy we are witnessing in Bosnia today would evoke a resolute and united determination among them to provide both effective material relief and a swift, peaceful solution. Therefore, understanding that this is God's vision for humanity, let us join together, all nations as one, under God, to bring peace and reconciliation to every corner of the world. Afflicted with suffering and conflict, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my hope that people of all faiths and nationalities who have gathered here this afternoon will understand this message with a deep heart and an open mind. I sincerely pray that by upholding the will of God, we can all reach the place of God's blessing. May God bless you, your families, and your nations. Thank you very much.